Would you think it was then metaphorical then? They're holding a bunch of guitars and singing, we want to, of course, let's say Death to America. We want to kill the Americans, the pagan heathen Americans, the infidels. No? All right. I'm still getting paid in 2 weeks, so that is. No, all right. Well, okay. So I thought it was an appropriate song. I thought it was an interesting point of discussion as we're entering the chorus, have entered the chorus. Religion and violence. Here we have a religious group using violent language to convey their message. Okay, fine. Well, what's going on there? Is that appropriate, inappropriate, whatever? How do maybe an outsider would take that language? Someone who's not Christian, and there's like soldiers under command. So they see themselves as soldiers to converting me, a non-Christian, as I'm like, what, the infidel, the enemy, that, I'm an enemy, that they're being sent by God to conquer. Oh, no, we don't mean that. We're just singing. We're a rock band. Not meant to take it literally. Listen to the beat, right? Always listen to the music. Don't listen to the lyrics. Unless it's like Nazi punk. Then with that, don't tell her, put that away. Racist metal and stuff like that. Because then the lyrics matter. But everything else, I never listen to the lyrics. All right. Well, I handed out to you a little list I made. It's not comprehensive, but some definitions of religion. We're talking about what religion is. Some definitions of religion by eggheads, famous people, smart people, I think, possibly. Some people you might be familiar with. Anyone familiar with any of the names? Some of the names? Yeah? Which names, Mr. Saunders? Which do you reckon? Freud, okay, good. Yeah, he's pretty famous. Anybody else? Anyone else jump out at anybody? Ms. Cook? Oh, you know William James. Oh, interesting. Anybody else? Anyone else jump out? No? Nobody? Nothing? It's Rogers, right? All right. So there's some definitions. The first one's actually quite a famous one by anyone take sociology? Taking sociology or had to take a class in sociology? Anybody? You did, Ms. Rogers? Did you ever hear or come across the name Emil Durkheim?
Just started sociology. So.
Oh, you just started it. Okay, so maybe, yeah. It's just beginning. Anyone taken it before ever heard of Emil Durkheim? You have, don't tell me, Mr. Gaines? No, not. Mr. Dobson. That's right, Mr. Dobson. So you've come across, and this is a very famous definition of religion. Anyone like to read this definition by Emil Durkheim? Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
A religion is a unified system of beliefs and practices relative to sacred things, that is, to things set apart and forbidden. Beliefs and practices which unite into one single moral community called a church. All those who adhere to them.
Excellent. Okay, so Emil Durkheim, you can see when he lived there, 1858 to 1917. He was a French Jew. It makes it kind of interesting in his definition that he calls the community a church. I guess he did that because he wanted to make his definition understandable to the milieu he was in, which was French, France is largely a Christian country. So, not that he's going to say synagogue, but, it's a little bit of a weird, because it's a religious term, a church is a religious building, I think. But anyways, he uses that. But he was not Christian. He was a French Jew. And I said sociology, sociologist, it wasn't the father of sociology, but it was one of the major players in the early years of developing it as science. Well, more of an art than a science. And he wrote about religion. And so he defined religion with this. And this was a very influential definition of what he thought religion is. A system, things you believe, things you do, relative to the sacred, which he defines for us. What is the sacred? Something set apart and forbidden. Don't touch this. Don't go there. Don't do that. Why? Well, because the gods live there, or it belongs to the gods. Okay? It's sacred, therefore, or something's dedicated to the gods. Therefore, it's sacred, which means you cannot, it's not normal anymore. It's not every day. So you have to act in it, the space, or treat the thing in a non-normal way. You can't just touch it, maybe you have to wear a cloth or a glove to touch it. You might think, well, who cares, I remember when I was in the seminary a number of times. They never kept me. I don't know why, but never made it through, Mr. Muller. Anyway, that was one seminary, actually up by Scranton, Moscow, outside of south of Scranton. But anyways, I was there, and it was a kind of a traditional group, so they celebrated very traditional liturgies, like that in Latin. I love that stuff. But anyways, I remember I had to learn how to serve Mass. I'd been an altar boy, but I had to learn, the liturgy was a little bit different in the old way, so I had to learn how to serve it. So, this one guy was putting me through the motion, showing me what to do. I remember, we're in the sacristy, right there, sacred, sacristy, sacer, sacred place, where the priest would vest, get dressed for Mass. And I was like, okay, so I had to prepare the chalice, the cup. You don't even call it a cup, it's a chalice, so it's sacred cup. Right? So you have the priest would put the wine into and stuff for Mass. Okay, so I just did what I did when I was an altar boy in my parish. I just took the chalice, the cup out, and put it down to get it ready, and boom, my friend started on me, jumped a little bit. I'm like, what's the matter? And he's like, no, you can't do that. You can't touch it. You have to hold it by its cloth. It's a little napkin that the priest uses to clean the chalice. So hold it when you grab it. Make sure it's hanging down on the side. So grab it around the cloth, the napkin, so that you don't physically touch the chalice. Understand what I'm saying? So you haven't touched it because it's sacred. And the priest's hands have been anointed by the bishop. Yours have not. I'm not a priest. I wasn't a priest. Oh, I didn't know that before. I didn't know that at all. And I've been an altar boy for many, many years. And I wanted to be a priest, so I read books and all sorts of stuff. But I didn't, I didn't have that lived experience of the old church or the old way. So this is a learning experience for me. Well, all right, fine. So from then on, I did that. I didn't think there was, honestly, I didn't think there was a little problem with it. But again, sacred. It's a sacred object. It can't be treated like a normal thing. Touch it a certain way. A number of years ago, was this after I was there or before I was there? Might have been after I was there. Drove up to Canada, drove up to Hamilton, Ontario, and I went to the Canadian Football Hall of Fame. Interesting place. And they had the Grey Cup. Does anyone know what the Grey Cup is? Grey Cup? Huh? Yeah, it's their championship. We have the Lombardi Trophy for NFL, but the Grey Cup is actually a lot older competition. It's always losing big. But it's a cup that someone donated for the football teams to play at the time. I think in the late 1800s. And compete over Lord Grey. I forget what his first name is, so it's called the Grey Cup. And they had it there, and I got to hold it. And I think I still have a picture of myself somewhere. So I think I've scanned it on my computer somewhere, or a copy. There's me standing there with white gloves on. I couldn't hold it with my hands. I had to put on white gloves and hold the Grey Cup for the lady to take a picture. That's kind of cool. But notice, it's just a trophy, but I had to put on gloves to hold it. Nothing really special about it. It's not like it was, but it's kind of a sacred object in a way. It's important. It's important to them. It's their championship trophy. You just can't handle it in any sort of way. So we see these things not just in religions, but we see them in the everyday world. Okay? You can't touch the King of England. You just can't. You cannot touch the person of the king. No one touches the king. Not supposed to. So there's kind of a kerfuffle many years ago when, well, this was before there was a king. It was still Queen Elizabeth II. She was still alive. And President Obama and his wife Michelle went to the UK to see the Queen. And Michelle's like putting her arms all over the Queen. And, touching her. And the Brits were pissed off, because it was in all their newspapers. They're like, you don't touch the monarch. That's our way. You want to touch the president? Put your hands all over him, people. That's great. But you don't touch the person of the king or the queen because they are a sacred figure. And they really are, because the King of England, now Charles III, who's their son, he is not just the head of state of the United Kingdom, he's also the head of the Church of England. So he's also a sacred figure. The sacred. So that's a big, so I will talk about the sacred some more later. But that's the thing. And basically, as I said, the sacred is, it's usually forbidden. You cannot, it's usually a thou shalt not. Don't touch it this way. Don't go in that place. Don't run in church. Well, why? Little kids run in church. Don't run in church. Or don't talk in church. Don't know what that's, that, go to a Catholic church. No one does that. Well, it used to be when I was growing up. It was always, after Mass, very quiet. People would stay and pray and people would be quiet. No, now it's like a free-for-all. No one cared. Because they're following the example of the priests. The priests don't care, so the people don't care. But it used to be, no, you spoke in a subdued voice because it's a sacred space. So you do not speak loudly. Unless you're like at a Baptist church. Then you can yell all you want. The preacher, hallelujah, hey, can I get an amen? Got a little organ music going. Yes! But in a Catholic church, no. Because it's a sacred space. You do things differently there. Okay, sacred or forbidden. Beliefs and practices that unite people into a community. So yeah, religion, like Ms. Diaversa. Well, not in this class. He said this. Wasn't Ms. Diaversa? That's another class. Where is she? Is she here today? She may not be here today. I don't see her. I think it was Ms. Howerton said this. But anyways, and she's not here today. But said something like, whatchamacallit? Community. Remember she said something like community is individualistic. It's an individual. It's a person. Okay. Yeah, but really, there is no, I would challenge her on that now and would just say, there is no religion of one. There used to be an army of one back in the 90s, but the army kind of ditched that campaign because it was kind of silly. No, you're part of a group in a religion. There's no religion of one person. I mean, you could, but that would be the exception that proves the rule. Religion is a community. It involves a group of people believing things and doing things. Otherwise, it doesn't really classify as a religion. Okay, Freud. All right, I see I've lost some of you, but Mr. Henry, why don't you read Freud for us, please? Yeah, okay. Sigmund Freud, you can see when he lived, he was an Austrian doctor, physician, psychiatrist, basically a psychologist who has a medical degree as a psychiatrist. He prescribed drugs and stuff like that. Whatever. You can see his dates when he died and when he lived and when he died. He's also of Jewish background, but I don't think either he or Durkheim were believing Jews. They weren't practicing Jews or believers in it. I mean, I know Freud was an atheist, and he had a negative view towards Christianity, but all religion he had a negative view of. And you see his, his definition here. And religion is our attempt to control our world. Okay, we're babies in a sense. We never really grow up. If you've seen men, that's kind of true. We never really grow up. Just as bad at 60 as we were at 25, as we were at 50. Yes, Mr. Henry. What do I mean by that? I'm going to tell you, sir. I'm glad you asked. But we remain, even though we mature, our bodies mature, psychologically, a lot of times, for Freud, people can remain infants in the infancy period. They don't mature psychologically. They can be stuck in certain stages of mental development. He thinks religion is one of those stages. People who are very religious are kind of stuck in the infancy stage where they need mommy and daddy. And they can't control what happens to them, but they want to control what happens to them. So religion can make us in the sense of being able to control an uncontrollable world that they don't really have control over. By creating this, like you said, a wish world. You create kind of like a father figure who oversees everything and takes care of you and takes care of everything like mommy and daddy did for you when you were a baby. So that makes you feel safe. And then you realize that you're eventually going to die. So you have a fear of death that comes in. You start realizing that the life that you have is limited. The machine will stop working at a certain point, no matter what you try to do. And you can't do anything about it. So that fear comes in. You want to control that. So you create the wish world of a heaven or a place with your sky daddy where you can live forever, maybe, or maybe not a heaven, just go somewhere else. But this is all in your mind. You're just creating this in your mind for Freud. It's a result of biological and psychological necessities. You cannot deal with the fact that we know we're going to die every moment of our existence. For Freud, it's very interesting. That was the cornerstone of his psychology, of his psychological theory, was basically the fear of death. That every moment of our life, everything that we do is because of that. Why do we have children? We want to be remembered. Because if you're the only one and you're dead and you die, everything dies with you. Your DNA goes in the grave with you, People want to have a continuation. Why do people do things, make stuff, make art, write books, put a video on TikTok to get tons of likes and followers? People, I got all these views. Who cares? I got 5,000 views on the video of me dancing with my cat. Who cares? Really? And I mean, really, who cares? Think about it. You're on this little planet around a little star and a relatively little galaxy amongst billions of other galaxies. Really? Who cares? We know we're going to die. And we want to be remembered. Even if it's in a little video that persists on the internet. And we're also scared that we can't control the world, that the world is uncontrollable, that, we could, the horror movie, not the horror movies, but the sci-fi horror movies, I guess, of an asteroid coming to hit the Earth and kill everybody. And, that makes for a nice, disaster film and stuff like that. But that has happened in the past to our planet. Our planet has been struck with rather large meteors and destructive ones. It could happen again. It's not outside the realm of possibility at all. Not recently, because now they've started tracking them, so we have a pretty good idea of the physics, and we're pretty sure that nothing's going to happen for at least another 400 or 500 years. I think if I looked at the statistics on the people who are tracking it, I think there's 500 years from now that might be a little bit problematic. I don't know if it'd be a planet killer, but it would certainly be big. But yeah, I mean, and that's just the natural world. That's how a solar system works. Solar system doesn't give a darn that there are creatures like us on planet Earth. They don't care. Physics doesn't care. If one rock hits another one and it hits it in our direction and it comes within the orbit gravity of our planet, well, what do they care that there are creatures on it? That you were planning to go to McDonald's in the after class. There. So we create a God who we can pray to. Move the rock, Lord. Geertz, I'll read Geertz. Geertz is an American anthropologist, a cultural anthropologist. So he has a more of a fixation on culture, the relationship between a religion is part of a cultural system. So a religion is a system of symbols that we create to establish powerful, pervasive, and long-lasting moods and motivations by right, we're at number 3, Clifford, come on. Formulating conceptions of a general order of existence. And 4, clothing these conceptions with an aura of factuality. That 5, the moods and motivations seem uniquely realistic. Okay, what does this mean? What is Clifford trying to say to us? What does he bring to the party? Rather than further obfuscation, Mr. Ruddle, yes? Well, religion is a system of symbols. Okay, yes, it's symbolic, just like anything else, just like our football game. I mean, sports are symbolic. They're symbols all the time. You know, you guys are playing baseball, and you got some guy over by third base who's like, do, you know? And the guy tries to steal second, you know? I don't know if they do that. Do they still do that on anywhere with all these little hand signs and little touches and that? No? Yes, maybe a little bit. Anyways, symbols, it's symbolic. You're trying to communicate things. The score is symbolic. Why is a touchdown 6 points? What is it about carrying a ball into a certain part of the field that grants you 6 points? Not 1 point or half a point, or even a point at all. No one. Yes, Mr. Henry?
Game.
Huh?
Right. Ask the man who made the game.
You got to ask the man who made the game. Yeah, Walter Camp. He's the one who came up with the scoring system. But originally in football in the late 1800s, when the first rule books came out, a touchdown was not worth any points. Actually, the way we play football now, people don't even know what the game is about. If you have to look at the history. The purpose of a touchdown, first of all, why is it called a touchdown? No one touches the ball down. No one's required to touch the ball down. You break the plane of the goal, right? To score. So why is it called a touchdown, Ms. Cook? The ball's never touched down. Maybe because it was originally. You had to touch the ball down in the end zone, or whatever you wanted to call it, the in-goal area if you're playing rugby, to what? Score points? Nope. The ball is touched down in the in-goal or the end zone to get the right to kick the ball at the goal. The sticks. It's like in soccer. They use that sticks. The goal. The goal posts. The field goal. Yes? And wherever you touch the ball down, that's directly parallel to that point. That's where it gave you the right from that spot out to then angle it and kick towards the goal. If you kick the ball through the sticks, and I say sticks deliberately because they had no crossbar in the early days, it was just sticks. Then you scored a goal. One goal, just like in soccer. If you missed it, you didn't. And sometimes they give you like half a point or something if you hit the stick, you hit the goal post, but it didn't go through. They give you something else for that. But you wanted to get the one goal. So you had the right to kick the ball through the sticks. And so conceivably, you could score 5 touchdowns in a football game, and only if you have a bad kicker, and the guy's only able to get it through the field for the goalpost one time and score 1 goal, and the other team scores twice, they have 2 touchdowns, and both of the goals they make, they win the game, not you, even though you had more touchdowns. That's the purpose. That's why you have an extra point, which, of course, now serves absolutely no purpose anymore from the concept of the game. That's how you won the game, the extra points. How many extra points did you make? Not how many touchdowns. But Walter Camp, yes, Mr. Henry, changed all that in like late 1800s. He wrote different rules. And he decided to give points values to each action. And he decided that, yeah, a touchdown is harder to get than a kick from the field. So we'll assign points to each thing and weight it. So a touchdown will have more points than just a kick after. Actually, the kicks still have more points than the touchdown, but they revised it later to make the touchdown have more points. So now it's all about touchdowns, which was that's not the original way you won the game. Not at all. It's a completely different idea. Not at all the same. So symbols. The points are symbols. 6 points for a touchdown means absolutely nothing. Could be 5 points. I think originally Camp had it at like 2 points. And a kick from the field a field goal was like 4 points. But then they decided it was so much harder to make a touchdown than a field goal that they up it to like 5 points for a touchdown and then like 3 points for a field goal. Symbols is complete symbolic. It has nothing to do with reality or whatever. See that in life as in religion. Ritual, that's powerful, pervasive, and long-lasting. We saw ritual in the video from Tuesday. The referee comes out and he's got a special coin. What do you need a special coin for the championship game? What is special about it? What's that mean? It's like like Miss Cook, when you go to the store and they say it's all natural. What does that mean? Really? Usually. You've tested that. You've taken out a bunch of products, lined them up, and looked at the ingredients, said, okay, most of these that have the word all natural on them are healthier for you than the ones, well, they could still say all.
But I got taking nutrition courses and stuff. Like organic, all natural whole foods are better.
But what does it mean to say that something's all natural? Sugar is natural.
There's good sugar and bad sugar.
But they're both natural, right?
No, like this is probably synthetic sugar in there.
Okay. But it was made by a human is natural. Following the law of science, that's natural. See, you gotta think like a businessman is good. Because all of this language is unregulated. So it means whatever the person who wrote it on wants it. Maybe it's healthier, yeah, maybe it is. Maybe not. Farm fresh. I guess it came from the farm. What do you mean fresh? Well, they're not rotten. Depends on, what's your definition of fresh? Any place. With advertising. Why did I go on that? Oh yeah, the corn. I'd be acting like the referee. Well, what's special about it? Well, it's just maybe because it's just gonna be used for that game. Yes, sir.
I was gonna say, well, it's the championship is like the best of the best. It's not just your average game. the attached coins specifically made coins.
Okay, good. Yes, it's specific. So there might be no other like it. Sorry, sir. Might be no other like it. Yeah, there's only one coin that's been minted or made for this one. Yes, very good. Yeah, I can see that. Now, when Geert says formulating a general order of existence, okay, so what he means is these symbols and, oh, ritual, that's what I want to point out. Ritual is something he adds to the party. This is his special sauce. Geertz was known for his emphasis on the importance of ritual in religion, actions that are done over and over and over again, usually the same way, words that are said over and over and over again. Freud also noticed this, and that's why he defined religion as a form of neurosis. It was like obsessive compulsiveness. But Geertz had a more positive view of ritual. Okay, stories that you keep telling over and over and over again. Why? Because these give you a sense of order to life and to existence, so kind of a sense of control. And to make these rituals even more important, you give them an aura. Aura just means like, it's like a word for a cloud or something like that. But you give them, it's the word I'm looking for, that's like aura, but maybe more understandable. Does anyone understand what an aura is? All right, so I don't need to explain. But factuality, you make them sound like they really happened or like they're really true. Okay? So I'm going to tell you a story 5,000 years ago in the land of Timbuktu. There was a man and a woman, and they had a child, and that's where all human beings came from, or whatever. And there may actually be a place called Timbuktu. Well, there was a place called Timbuktu in Western Africa. And 5,000 years ago is a pretty specific time frame. So you're limiting yourself. You're giving a specific date. So 5,000 years ago, not a million, not 14 billion, 5,000. Okay. So you're making it sound like it could have really happened sometime, In the beginning, God created the sky and the earth. Yes. An aura of factuality. To make our moods, how it makes us feel, religion makes us. Yeah. Yes. It makes us feel like it's real. See, I don't think Geertz thought that religion wasn't real, but it made us feel like it was real, Jesus is really here with me if I do certain things, If I say certain words over a piece of bread or a cup of wine and believe that they change into Jesus, it makes it seem real to me. The ritual makes it real, his presence real, like he's really there. All right, Rudolf Otto. Rudolf Otto is very simple. Rudolf Otto was a theologian. So he was a religious person. I think he was Lutheran, I think. But anyways, he was a theologian, so he theorized about God and stuff like that, and of German extraction. And he wrote a book about the holy, the sacred. So he's pretty simple. Religion is about the sacred. Those things that are, well, he had a different idea than Durkheim did. Durkheim's like, it's what's forbidden and whatever. For Otto, the sacred is more of a powerful experience, an experience of power or energy that the person themselves experience, which is in some way overwhelming, makes them feel like they're part of the universe, or on the reverse side, makes them realize how small they are and how big the universe is. And it's kind of scary as well. So on one hand, it's kind of fascinating. Feel like, oh, I'm part of everything. If you've ever gone to a concert, band you really like, and everyone's into the music, and it's a good crowd and stuff like that. I get that high, where you're just happy all of a sudden, for no particular reason necessarily. Hopefully not, if you're at a rock concert, but you never know. If the wind blows a certain way, and Anyways. On the other hand, it could be, terrifying. Like if you're out on a boat during a hurricane, you're out on a cruise ship or something, and somehow you sail into a hurricane and you're being tossed around. You're experiencing this powerful thing, uncontrollable, and it's terrifying. But it's also in a way fascinating because, well, all right. Anyone want to read Spiro Melford? He's an American, also Jewish abstraction, anthropologist. Just died like 10 some years ago. Anyone want to read his? Melford Spiro. Go ahead, Mr. Saunders.
Religion is an institution consisting of culturally patterned interaction with culturally postulated superhuman beings.
Okay. And this is how eggheads talk. Mr. Dobson, couldn't you just say gods, that people made up? No, it has to be culturally patterned supernatural beings. Because if you just say gods that people make up, well, then you don't get the respect from the other eggheads, So religion is an institution it comes totally out of culture for him. It's a cultural artifact, cultural thing of how people want to interact with gods that they create or spirits that they create, supernatural beings, non-natural beings, non-necessarily human beings. But he says superhuman because these beings might also have human characteristics and traits. Like, they might have bodies like human beings and long hair, like Thor with his hammer, and he's basically a human, but he's a god too. I wonder what that meant, like when I'm watching the Marvel movies, and I remember they have one where the Hulk was fighting, what is the jokester god, the black hair, Thor's brother, huh? Loki, yeah. And Hulk is smashing Loki all through buildings and stuff like that. And finally Hulk, is like, not much of a god. I guess that was supposed to be a funny moment, but I was like sitting there thinking to myself, you know what? You're right. That's not much of a god. What makes Loki a god and the Hulk not? They can both smash through buildings. You can do whatever you want to, or even Captain America or Iron Man. There's just a guy they don't do anything. See what they do in these movies? It's like, how are they? What is the difference between Thor and these guys? All right. So superhuman beings who may also look very human and have human traits. Paul Tillich, an American, originally from Prussia, not Russia, Prussia, which doesn't exist anymore, which was a empire that used to include like Poland and parts of Germany, okay? But he emigrated to the United States, so he became an American. He was a Lutheran theologian, so again, a God man, talking about God, and kind of on the liberal side of theology. Liberal meaning that he was more open to modern ideas and applying them to understanding religion. Okay? We'd like to read Mr. Tillich, or Pastor Tillich. Go ahead, Mr. Ruddle.
Religion is the state of being grasped by an ultimate concern, a concern which qualifies all other concerns as preliminary, and which itself contains the answer to the question of the meaning of life.
Okay. But that's two words. If you want to encapsulate Paul Tillich's whole explanation of religion, ultimate concern is it. That's it. It's your ultimate concern. The final thing you care about is, let's see. Miss Jasmine? Still with me? You got it? All right. I know it's tough, Jasmine. Don't worry. Only 3 more months, as I told Miss Howard. Nope, I got you. Miss Krause. Miss Krause. You'll make it through. You'll make it through. I'll make sure that you make it through. as best I can. The thing you care about. And every other concern is preliminary, which means you subordinate, it's the thing that you subordinate everything else to. Okay? Anyone watch the movie, whatchamacallit, what is it? I can see it. Tom Cruise and what's her name? Demi Moore. And he's in and it's a trial, military trial. Jack Nicholson. The trial. You can't handle the truth. Anyone remember that movie? A Few Good Men. That's right. Anyone see that movie, A Few Good Men? Few Good Men? No? Well, my references get old as I get old. So it's a 90s movie. But anyways. So don't worry about it. I can't use my example then. But, what's your ultimate concern, But anyone ever watched The Sopranos? Or is that still too old? Were you still too young then to watch The Sopranos on HBO? You were watching The Sopranos? I'm looking at you, Mr. Henry. You're nodding your head, Oh. What is it all about? It's all about family. Family. Yes. The family. You never cross. If you ever watched, like, the Godfather movie. Just one thing, Angelo. You never cross the family. You never go against the family. Never go against the family. Your ultimate concern, and everything is subordinate to that. So if your family is what matters to you, then everything else goes in. Church or school or whatever. I only care about and some of you will have this attitude when you get kids. Ask your parents. They probably had that realization as well. Once they had you popped out, this little bundle of joy, everything changed for them. You became their ultimate concern. Everything was subordinated to that. For some people, it's a God. That's their ultimate concern. And everything else becomes preliminary. And it gives the answer to what life means. It gives meaning to their life. Just like you gave meaning to your parents' life. Maybe not the meaning they wanted, but well, I'm just saying, Dad didn't get a dad body by nothing, sir. Your mother didn't get her gray hairs by nothing. Has she ever told you that? Never use the whole gray hair argument on you. You see these gray hairs? Yeah. Ultimate concern. Tyler is one of the best, I think one of the simplest and the best explanations, or definitions, I should say. He's the father of anthropology, modern anthropology. He was English. He's from England. He was a Quaker. He was a religious man. And he just said, religion is about spiritual beings. It's the belief in spiritual beings. Or you could just say the belief in spirits. That's what it is. Spirits, things that are non-material, non-natural, not necessarily human, spirits. Spiritual beings. That's what all religion is about for him. And I'm not going to worry about Yinger. Do I want to pass over him? Yeah, because he basically says the same thing as Tillich, ultimate problems of human life. He's appropriating it. But let's get to James. James was an American philosopher. He's considered the father of American psychology because he did go to, I believe he did go to medical school, so he was a psychiatrist, and he wrote about psychology, but he also wrote a lot about religion in a philosophical way. William James. Ms. Cook, would you like to read it? Because you mentioned that you knew James, so here we go.
We consist of the unseen order and that our supreme good lies adjusting ourselves.
Excellent. Okay. So yeah, there's an order to the universe that we can't see, but we can perceive it. We feel it's there. And yeah, I agree with that. Have you ever gone to the store, the grocery store, and you park in the parking lot, you go inside, you do your business, you get your stuff, and you pay, and you come out, right? You're walking to your car. And there's another person like behind you who also just randomly came out, just comes out behind you. And you start walking and walking. And that person behind you is walking with you. Guess where that person's going? Yeah, they're going to the car right next to yours somewhere. Behind it, left, right, doesn't matter. And it can be a huge parking lot. There can be 100 different cars in the parking lot. But for some reason, that person just randomly, or it also could say the same thing about you, right? You just both randomly walk out at the same time. Does that ever bother you? Have you ever noticed that? Or just, oh, you never noticed that?
Why is that bothersome?
Why does it happen so often? It's not like it happens enough that you notice it, or at least I notice it.
Yeah, but why is it bothersome? Like,
Don't you think it's weird? It's unusual. Should those things happen in a world that's largely coincidental and borderless?
Yeah.
Why should those things happen?
chance.
Yeah, but chance is chance. How can that happen? If it happened once, I would say, okay, I got you. It's just chance it's happening. Whoa, hey, we came out at the same time. But if it happens more than once, is that still chance? Okay. All right, fine. Maybe I'm just seeing patterns that I shouldn't see. Possible. I'm feeling an order that's not there. Maybe that's what religion is. Perceiving order that's not there, that we think is there. It's not there. Two planets moving what apparently seems to be regular orbits, and we think that's planned. Someone did that, made it that way, right? But I can't see who did it or see the order. I just kind of feel it, right? It's a feeling. So as James says, it's an unseen order. But if I kind of tap into that order and pattern maybe my life after that order, we'll talk about trying to live in harmony with nature. What does that mean? Living in harmony with nature. Well, what does that mean? It sounds positive, I guess, but what does that mean? What do you mean by nature? I should go out and tackle a deer and rip open its throat when I'm hungry? Why not? That's nature. I see it all the time on the Discovery Channel. Some lion, something going out doing that. That's nature. Isn't that natural? So I'm harmonious with it. I'm hungry, do what it does, do what nature does. Fish eats another fish. Usually people mean like, like doing yoga or meditating in a forest or, outside somewhere and feeling the breeze. And okay, all right, fine. That's what you mean by harmony with nature. You're harmonizing. Having a balance with nature, maybe. Is nature balanced? Really? Hurricanes, tornadoes, those are balanced events? The whole point we notice them is because they're imbalanced. Where's the harmony in nature? Show me harmony in nature, and then you can explain to me how you're harmonizing with it. But we want that. We want to live harmoniously. If I tap in, say, the movements of the planets, if you go back to my other example, if I tap into the movements of the planets and I organize my life according to that, then maybe I'll have a good life or good luck, or I'll have my cattle won't die, my wife will be fertile with children, and I'll have, whatever. So you see that in a lot of cultures. They're very focused on what are the planets and the stars doing. Okay, there were astronomers already because they needed to know, because they thought that order affected what was going to happen to them living down on the earth. I got you. God bless you all. I will see you on Tuesday in September. You're welcome, miss. Have a good day. See you, ladies. Ah. Good day, miss.
It is.
Where inside of it?
Probably inside. I'm not walking.
Okay, I will, let me know when you're in.
I'm probably gonna go back to the room.
Thank you. Mr. Have a good day, Mr. Rowe. See you, Mr. Saunders. Oh, yeah, you have a question?
Yeah, I know.
Hold on a second.
You're probably gonna think, check the syllabus, which